Commander Jack Lucky Maxwell stared out the viewport of his patrol ship, the CSS Unfortunate Timing, and contemplated the infinite vastness of space. More specifically, he contemplated how infinitely boring his patrol route was. The Terran Space Force had assigned him to monitor this particular sector of space because, and he quoted directly from his orders, "Nothing ever happens there." He'd earned his nickname Lucky through a series of increasingly improbable incidents that always seemed to work out in his favor. Like that time he'd accidentally launched himself out of an airlock without a suit and managed to get back inside before he even got frostbite. Or when he'd tripped and fallen into the ship's fusion reactor maintenance shaft, only to discover a critical fault that would have blown up half the sector. His superiors had decided that someone with his particular brand of luck needed to be kept as far away from important missions as possible. "Captain," his ship's AI announced with all the enthusiasm of a DMV worker on a Monday morning, "I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature approximately 47,000 kilometers to port." Jack straightened in his chair, suddenly alert. "Define anomalous." "Well, sir, it appears to be a spaceship, a rather damaged one, and it's not of human origin." "Computer, are you telling me we just made first contact?" "Technically, sir, humanity made first contact 6 months ago. There was a whole ceremony. You weren't invited." Jack slumped back in his chair. "Of course I wasn't." "Well, what kind of ship is it?" "Unknown classification. But based on the energy readings, they're operating on minimal power. Life support seems to be failing." This was it. This was his chance to prove himself. To show the brass that Lucky Maxwell wasn't just a walking disaster magnet. He'd perform a heroic rescue, establish diplomatic relations, maybe even get a medal. "Sir." The AI interrupted his daydream. "They're responding to our hails. Audio only." A series of high-pitched chirps and whistles filled the bridge, followed by what sounded like someone gargling mouthwash while playing a kazoo. After a moment, it resolved into heavily accented standard English. "Please maintain your distance. We acknowledge your presence but must insist that you do not approach. We have the situation well in hand." Jack blinked. "Your life support is failing." "A minor inconvenience. We assure you we require no assistance from humans?" Jack supplied helpfully. A chorus of what sounded like terrified squeaks came through the comm. "They are humans. Emergency protocols. Initiate the Death World contingencies." Jack watched in bewilderment as the damaged ship attempted to limp away at what could generously be called 1/8 impulse power. They were leaving a trail of plasma behind them that looked like a leaking radiator on a '92 Honda Civic. "Should I pursue, sir?" the AI asked, somehow managing to sound both bored and amused. "They're not going to get very far," Jack noted, watching as the alien ship executed what had to be the slowest escape attempt in the history of space travel. "But yes, follow them. Maintain distance so we don't spook them more than they already are." "Sir, they appear to be broadcasting a distress signal. Would you like to hear it?" "Sure, why not?" The message played. "Warning to all vessels, humans detected in Sector 7. This is not a drill. They survived atmospheric re-entry in nothing but environmental suits. They drink poison for pleasure. They can regenerate lost limbs. Well, technically they can't, but they replace them with mechanical ones and keep going anyway. Stay away, stay. Oh no, they're following us. Remember the protocols, no sudden movements, no direct eye contact. And whatever you do, don't let them try to help. You know what happened in the Rigel system." Jack turned to his AI's holographic interface. "What happened in the Rigel system?" "No idea, sir. But they seem very concerned about it." "Right." Jack settled back into his captain's chair, watching as the alien ship continued its glacial escape attempt. "Well, this is definitely not how I imagined first contact would go." "Second contact," the AI corrected. "Not helping, computer. This was going to be a long day. But at least it wasn't boring anymore." After 20 minutes of what had to be the least dramatic chase sequence in the history of space exploration, the alien ship's engine finally gave out with a sad little puff of green plasma. "Well," Jack announced to nobody in particular, "I guess we're done with the running away part." He opened a comm channel. "This is Commander Maxwell of the CSS Unfortunate Timing. Your engine just failed. Your life support is critical. And you're venting atmosphere. Would you please let us help you before this becomes really awkward for everyone involved?" There was a long pause before the response came. If we agree to accept assistance, will you guarantee not to demonstrate any of your species' Death World capabilities?" Jack mouthed the words Death World capabilities silently to himself. I promise to be as non-Death Worldy as possible. Scout's honor. Another pause. We are unfamiliar with this Scout's honor. Is it one of your combat rituals? What? No, it's... Never mind. Look, can we dock with your ship or not? A new voice came over the comm, this one sounding more authoritative but equally nervous. This is Senior Xenoanthropologist Kretal of the Scientific Vessel Rational Discourse. We will accept your assistance. But first, we must verify your safety protocols. Do you have any Class -4 biohazard suits? We've got standard environmental suits. Standard environmental suits? The voice rose several octaves. But the atmospheric pressure differential could exceed 7 kilopascals. Yeah, that's what they're designed for. By the 7 moons, Kretal whispered, they really are indestructible. Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. Computer, what's their atmospheric composition? Nitrogen-oxygen mix, sir. Almost identical to Earth standard. They're basically breathing the same air we are. Did you hear that? Jack asked the aliens. We can breathe your air just fine, no suits needed. The resulting silence was so profound that Jack checked to make sure the comm was still working. You would expose yourself directly to our atmosphere? Without protection? Kretal sounded like someone had just suggested juggling antimatter containment pods. Well, yeah, you're breathing it, right? But we have spent generations adapting our bodies to survive in such harsh conditions. Our ancestors engineered our entire species to. Your atmosphere is literally the same as ours. Impossible. Our homeworld is a deadly environment of extreme conditions. Temperatures ranging from 268 to 305 Kelvin. Atmospheric pressure of nearly 1 full bar. Radiation levels that. Yeah, that's Earth. You just described Earth. There was a sound from the other ship that Jack's universal translator helpfully identified as multiple beings fainting simultaneously. A new, shakier voice came on. This explains so much. The histories speak of your kind. How you survived the Great Filter by simply being too stubborn to die. How your warriors can continue fighting with massive trauma that would incapacitate any rational species. There are documents from the first observation team that watched a human female carry a young male over 3 kilometers with a broken leg. Her broken leg. Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Adrenaline's wild. Look, can we maybe have this conversation while we're fixing your ship? Your life support numbers are still dropping. You would risk boarding our vessel? Even knowing it may be unstable? Jack sighed. That's generally how rescues work, yes. Truly, you are as fearless as the legends say. The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. We had heard stories that humans regularly ingest molecular acid for pleasure. Molecular acid? What are you? Oh, you mean coffee. Listen, I really think we need to discuss your sources for human information. But first, let's deal with your ship. Computer, begin docking procedures. Certainly, sir. And may I say, your ability to remain patient in the face of such interesting xenoanthropological theories is admirable. Was that sarcasm? I'm an AI, sir. I don't do sarcasm. I merely make factual observations in a tone that might be interpreted as mocking by overly sensitive organic beings. Right. Jack stood up, stretching. Well, time to go terrify some aliens with our basic rescue protocols. This should be interesting. As the docking clamps engaged, he could hear the aliens on the other end of the comm frantically reviewing their human encounter survival guidelines. From what he could make out, most of it seemed to involve playing dead and hoping the humans would lose interest. This was definitely not covered in his first contact training. The docking procedure went smoothly, which was honestly a bit disappointing given all the buildup. Jack had half expected the aliens to try one last desperate escape attempt, maybe jettison their cargo holds or something equally dramatic. Instead, they just sat there, presumably preparing themselves for the horror of meeting a real live human. Hey, Pete. Jack called over the ship's comm. Grab your toolkit. We've got some new friends who need help with their engine. Chief Engineer Pete Rodriguez appeared a few minutes later, carrying his beloved toolbox and humming what sounded suspiciously like, "Don't Fear the Reaper." So, Pete said as they approached the airlock, these the aliens who think we're some kind of unstoppable death machines? Yep. Should we tell them I cried watching a video of a robot dog being kicked yesterday? Let's keep that to ourselves for now. The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the alien ship. The corridor was empty, but Jack could hear whispered conversations and hurried movement behind the sealed doors. "Hello?" he called out. "We're here to help. Nobody panic." A door slid open, revealing what appeared to be a 7-foot-tall praying mantis wearing a lab coat and safety goggles. It held up a device that was probably supposed to be threatening but looked more like a bedazzled television remote. "Halt," the alien announced, voice quavering. "I am senior xenoanthropologist Krital. Before you proceed, I must verify that you are not currently experiencing any of your species' berserker combat states." Pete raised an eyebrow. "You mean like being hangry?" "They're admitting to combat hunger," someone shrieked from behind a nearby panel. No, we're fine," Jack assured them quickly. "Totally calm, no berserker anything. We just want to help fix your ship." Krital lowered the device slightly. "You truly mean us, no harm?" "Promise. Scout's honor." Jack paused. "Wait. No, we already established that wasn't a combat ritual. Regular honor. Pete here is just going to take a look at your engine, maybe do some repairs. He's really good at it." "Yeah," Pete chimed in. "I've got a great track record. Only blown up 2 ships this month." Jack closed his eyes. "He's joking. Pete, why would you joke about that right now?" "Sorry, boss. Inappropriate humor is my coping mechanism for stressful situations." "They cope with stress through humor," Krital announced to the ship at large. "Fascinating. The reports were true. They really do laugh in the face of death." "I also cope through gardening," Pete offered. "Got some lovely tomatoes growing in hydroponics." This seemed to break Krital's brain entirely. You cultivate organic matter? For sustenance? Voluntarily exposing yourself to soil bacteria and plant toxins?" "Well, yeah, makes a great salad." "They consume raw plant matter," Krital whispered into a recording device. "Confirmation of previous studies indicating humans will attempt to eat anything they can fit in their mouths." "Look," Jack interrupted, "can we maybe focus on the engine? The one that's about to fail catastrophically?" "Oh yes, of course. But I must warn you, our engine room contains several highly dangerous." Pete was already walking past them, toolbox in hand. "Don't worry, I've seen worse. This one time on Titan, I had to repair a quantum drive with nothing but duct tape and a paperclip. They can manipulate quantum forces with primitive adhesives." Jack watched as Pete disappeared down the corridor, still chatting about his garden while a procession of terrified aliens followed him at what they probably thought was a safe distance. "So," he turned back to Krital, "while he's handling that, maybe you could tell me more about these stories you've heard about humans? I'm particularly interested in the one about the Rigel system." "Ah, yes. The incident where a human maintenance worker held a plasma breach closed with their bare hands for 17 minutes. They what now? It was heavily documented. They survived through a combination of your species' remarkable healing abilities and what the reports describe as sheer bloody-mindedness." From somewhere in the engine room, they heard Pete's voice. "Oh hey, you've got a type -7 plasma manifold. These are great for growing orchids." Is he suggesting using our engine as a gardening implement?" Krital asked, horrified and fascinated in equal measure. "Knowing Pete? Probably." Jack shrugged. "He once turned a broken matter replicator into a hot tub." Krital frantically scribbled more notes. "Extraordinary. The human ability to repurpose technology for recreational purposes. This confirms the hypothesis about your species' tool use being linked to your pleasure centers." "You know what?" Jack said, watching as more aliens cautiously emerged from hiding to observe Pete's repair work. "I'm starting to think there's been some serious miscommunication about humans somewhere along the line." From the engine room came the sound of Pete singing "Don't Stop Believin'" while welding something, accompanied by the soft thud of several aliens fainting. Just another day in space, really. 3 hours into what Pete called Operation Make This Engine Less Explodey, the ship's proximity alert started blaring. Jack had been listening to Krital explain how humans had gained a reputation for being able to digest anything after a cargo pilot survived 2 weeks on nothing but emergency hull sealant and spite. Unidentified vessels approaching. The Rational Discourse's AI announced in what Jack thought was an unnecessarily calm voice for the situation. Profile matches known pirate configurations. "Pirates?" Kritala's antennae went flat against their head. "Here? But this sector is supposed to be safe." "Yeah," Jack sighed. "That's why they sent me here." The comm system crackled. "Attention, disabled vessel. This is Captain Varkath of the Free Enterprise Association. Prepare to be boarded and relieved of any valuable cargo. Resistance will be met with." "Wait." There was a pause. "Are those humans over there?" "Just a couple." Jack replied cheerfully. We're helping with repairs. Another pause. The rational discourse has humans on board? Willingly? More or less willingly, Jack said, glancing at a group of aliens who were still maintaining what they called a safety perimeter around Pete. Would you like to reconsider your boarding plans? Don't try to bluff us. Everyone knows humans are peaceful unless threatened. Your reputation for violence is greatly exaggerated. Pete looked up from the engine assembly he was rebuilding. Hey boss, isn't this the same pirate group that raided that colony on Proxima B? The one with all the puppies? Yeah, I think it is. There was a very long silence on the comm. What's a puppy? One of the pirates asked. Oh, they're these small earth animals. Really cute. The pirates took a bunch of them along with the colony supplies. Jack's voice hardened slightly. We never did find out what happened to those puppies. The pirate ship's engines suddenly fired up. You know what? Captain Varkath's voice had risen an octave. I just remembered we have another raid scheduled. Somewhere else. Far from here. But sir, another pirate voice cut in. What about the rumors that humans are actually quite reasonable if you just... They took their puppies, Merkel. They're tiny, defenseless earth creatures. Do you know what happened to the last pirates who made humans angry? They got talked to about their life choices? Jack blinked. Wait, is that considered a threat in pirate culture? The humans made them reconsider their entire career paths. Through conversation. They use words as weapons. The pirate captain was practically shrieking now. Half of them went back to school. Some opened small businesses. To be fair, Pete called out. Dave's Space Pirate Pizza Parlor is doing really well. Great garlic knots. They've already infiltrated our retirement plans. Full reverse. Get us out of here before they start asking about our 5-year goals. The pirate ships turned around so fast they left scorch marks on the fabric of space-time. Krital stared at Jack with a mixture of terror and awe. You defeated them without firing a single shot, simply by implying you might engage them in supportive dialogue about their future. I mean, that wasn't really what I was going for, but sure, let's go with that. The legends spoke of your species' psychological warfare capabilities, but this... Krital shuddered. You turned their own crew against them with promises of better career opportunities. Actually, Pete chimed in, Dave really did need a career change. The whole space piracy thing was just him acting out because his parents wanted him to go into accounting. He's much happier now making pizza and doing their books on the side. They even convinced their enemies to achieve work. Life balance. One of the alien engineers whispered in horror. Is there no end to their powers? Jack opened his mouth to explain, then closed it again. Sometimes it was better to let people keep their illusions. Especially when those illusions involved being terrified of humans suggesting community college courses. So, he said instead, about that engine. Oh, it's fine now, Pete said, closing his toolbox. Just needed to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow and reset the quantum harmonizer. Also, I planted some basil in that empty coolant tank. Should sprout in a few days. You grew plants in our engine? Several aliens shouted in unison. Don't worry, it's just a small herb garden. Very therapeutic. Speaking of which, has anyone here considered taking up gardening as a hobby? Great for stress relief. The sound of multiple aliens fainting echoed through the engine room again. Pete. Jack sighed. What did we say about suggesting recreational activities to already traumatized aliens? Sorry, boss, force of habit. But you have to admit, they really could use some stress relief techniques. In the distance, they could still hear the pirate ships running away at full speed, probably filing their applications to technical schools as they fled. Just another successful first contact. Second contact. Whatever. With the pirates gone and the engine repaired and partially converted into an herb garden, the mood aboard the rational discourse had shifted from blind panic to cautious curiosity. After witnessing humans fix their ship, chase off pirates with career advice, and not immediately try to demonstrate their legendary Death World capabilities, the aliens had begun to emerge from their hiding spots. So, Krital said, watching Jack eat a sandwich in what they probably thought was a respectful scientific distance, your species regularly consumes processed grain products combined with protein sources and vegetable matter? All at the same time? You mean a sandwich? Yeah, it's pretty standard lunch food. Fascinating. And you're certain the combination won't cause internal combustion? Jack paused mid-bite. Why would a sandwich cause internal combustion? Well, according to our research, humans can consume nearly any organic matter without immediate fatal consequences. We assume this was due to some form of internal fusion reaction. We just have good digestive systems, Jack explained, and sometimes really poor judgment about what counts as food. Want to try a bite? The entire observation team gasped. You would share your sustenance? Krital's antennae quivered, but the implications of such an intimate cultural exchange. It's just a turkey sandwich. They offer us their fusion-processed nutrient compounds, one of the junior scientists whispered excitedly. Quick, document everything. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Pete had somehow convinced a group of engineers to try coffee. This was going about as well as expected. This liquid is attempting to strip my neural pathways, one of them announced, vibrating slightly. Is this the source of human power? Nah, that's just the caffeine, Pete said, taking a sip from his world's oakiest engineer mug. Wait till you try espresso. There's a stronger version? Another engineer asked, pupils dilated to different sizes. How does your species sleep? That's the neat part, we don't. At least not during finals week. Back in the mess hall, Jack was dealing with his own cultural exchange issues. No, high fives aren't a dominance ritual. It's just something we do to celebrate. But you raise your appendages in a threatening manner. It's friendly. Look, I'll demonstrate. Jack turned to Pete, who had just entered with his coffee cult following. Hey Pete, high five. The resulting slap echoed through the mess hall, followed by the now familiar sound of multiple aliens fainting. They engage in recreational combat for pleasure, one of the conscious scientists shouted, frantically taking notes. That's not, you know what? Sure. Recreational combat. Why not? Jack had given up trying to correct their misconceptions. It was easier just to roll with it at this point. But what about the ritual they call fist bump? A brave junior researcher raised their appendage. Our studies suggest it's a way of transferring kinetic energy between warriors. Pete grinned. Oh man, wait till they hear about secret handshakes. Pete, please don't teach them about secret handshakes. They're still processing the sandwich thing. Too late. Pete was already demonstrating an elaborate handshake to a group of increasingly amazed engineers, complete with explosion sound effects at the end. They can create miniature detonations with their appendages. Krital was writing so fast their datapad was smoking slightly. And they do this for amusement? It's not a real explosion, Jack tried to explain. It's just a... Boss, Pete interrupted. They want to learn about human music next. I've got my playlist ready. Pete, no. Pete, yes. The opening riffs of Sweet Home Alabama began playing through the ship's speakers. They encode sonic warfare patterns into rhythmic frequencies, someone shouted over the music. This one speaks of returning to a specific geographical location. Is it a migration call? The harmonics match their planet's resonant frequency. They're using sound to manipulate space-time. Jack watched as the aliens tried to decode Leonard Skynyrd for hidden military messages while Pete taught them air guitar. One of the engineers had already mastered the power slide. You know, he said to Krital, who was attempting to categorize different headbanging techniques by species impact resistance. I think there might be a few things your research got wrong about humans. Impossible, Krital protested. Our data clearly shows that humans are the most terrifying species in known space. Look at how you share your dangerous recreational activities so freely. You're trying to teach us your combat music. From across the room, Pete had started a conga line. The humans have initiated a synchronized movement ritual, someone screamed in delight. Quick, Maine, assure the psychic energy output. Jack sighed and took another bite of his sandwich. At least they weren't hiding in the walls anymore. Progress was progress, even if it came with a soundtrack of classic rock and the occasional thud of overwhelmed xenoanthropologists hitting the deck. 3 days after first contact, second contact, whatever, the rational discourse was ready to return to their home port. Their engine was running better than new, thanks to Pete's modifications and what he called the power of love, also known as percussive maintenance. The herbs in the coolant tank were sprouting nicely. The crew had gradually stopped fainting every time a human smiled, though they still maintained a respectful distance whenever Pete started humming Don't Stop Believin' during maintenance checks. They'd even started to embrace some human customs, though their interpretation remained interesting. Commander Maxwell, Krital called out, approaching Jack with their appendage raised. I wish to perform the ritual of high five to commemorate our successful cultural exchange. Sure, but you don't have to. Jack watched as Krital carefully consulted their notes, performed 3 ceremonial circles, and gently tapped their appendage against his hand with all the gravity of someone disarming a nuclear weapon. Do all that. Did I complete the ritual correctly? I wasn't sure about the velocity coefficient for appendage impact. You know what? Close enough. The ship's comm system crackled. Senior xenoanthropologist Kretal, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. The Council? Kretal's antennae straightened in surprise. Put them through. A holographic image appeared, showing what looked like a panel of various alien species, all trying very hard to appear dignified despite their obvious agitation. Xenoanthropologist Kretal, the central figure, announced, "We have received your reports about the humans' assistance, along with the interesting cultural annotations about their combat music and nutrient fusion rituals." "Oh no," Jack muttered. "Pete, what did you put in those reports?" Pete looked up from where he was teaching a group of engineers to play air guitar. "Just the usual. First contact protocols, engineering logs, recipes for chili." "You gave them your chili recipe?" "Well, yeah. They wanted to understand human cuisine, though I may have forgotten to mention that not all humans can handle that level of spice." The council member continued, "After reviewing your data, including the concerning documents about something called 5-alarm chili, which we assume is some form of chemical warfare." "It's really not that bad," Pete protested. "I only use 3 types of ghost peppers. We have come to a decision. Humanity will be offered a seat on the Galactic Council." Jack blinked. "Wait. What?" "Your species has demonstrated a unique combination of traits. You are physically resilient, yet show no inclination toward conquest. You possess terrifying capabilities, yet use them primarily for assistance and gardening. You have mastered fusion technology, yet primarily employ it for brewing bitter stimulant beverages." "That's not how coffee." Jack started, but the council member wasn't finished. "Most importantly, you have shown an unprecedented ability to handle crisis situations while maintaining positive psychological states, often through the use of rhythmic sound patterns and recreational combat displays." "They mean the conga line," Pete whispered helpfully. "Therefore, we would like to formally designate humanity as the galaxy's official crisis response species." There was a moment of silence. "So," Jack said slowly, "you want us to be the galaxy's emergency response team? Because we're good at helping people while playing music and growing herbs and engine parts?" "Precisely. Your species' unique combination of durability, problem-solving capabilities, and inexplicable desire to nurture other life forms makes you ideally suited for the role. Though we would appreciate it if you could provide warning before deploying your chili-based weapons." "It's just a recipe," Pete muttered. "And I even left out the extra habaneros." "Do you accept this responsibility?" the council asked. Jack looked around the ship, at Pete, still teaching aliens about classic rock, at the engine room where Basil was growing in a quantum coolant tank, at Kretal, carefully practicing their high-five technique with a group of junior researchers. "You know what? Sure. We accept." "Excellent. Though we must insist on one condition. Please have your engineering specialist share more of his vegetation cultivation techniques. Several council members have expressed interest in these tomatoes he speaks of." Pete's face lit up. "Oh man, wait till I tell them about hydroponics." And that's how humanity, the species that terrified the galaxy with their ability to survive basically anything, ended up becoming space's equivalent of golden retrievers. Friendly, helpful, slightly chaotic, and absolutely determined to make everyone feel better through a combination of food, music, and enthusiastic physical gestures. The rational discourse eventually made it home, its crew forever changed by their encounter. They had gone from fearing humans to still fearing humans, but in more of an, "oh no, they're gonna try to teach us another friendship ritual" way rather than a run-for-your-lives way. As for Jack Lucky Maxwell and Pete Rodriguez, they were assigned to head up the new Human Crisis Response Division. Their first official act was to install garden boxes on every emergency response vessel in the fleet. The galaxy would never be the same, but at least it would have fresh tomatoes. "Hey boss," Pete said as they watched the rational discourse depart, "think we should tell them about dogs? Let's save something for the next crisis." After all, the galaxy wasn't ready for puppies just yet. Though Pete did start drafting plans for a combination emergency response vessel and mobile pet adoption center, just in case.